Hello everyone, I'm Daniel and this is Emily Leonard beside me, and we're here in the house of Heather Marcus, and we're going to interview Heather herself and Peter Gibbons, who are both running for the council positions.
We have some questions to ask Heather and Peter about what they will do to help the community if they get elected.
We'll outline issues regarding safety, just in the streets of course, issues regarding the community of Wyndham and in general, and just what in general they'll do to help out the community if they are elected. So we'll introduce them. Here they are, Peter Gibbons and Heather Marcus. So Heather and Peter, what would you do if you got elected for the council?
Thank you, Daniel and Emily, for being here today to interview myself and Peter. We want to point out that we are running as a team. Three councillors will be elected out of the 9 candidates, but we need everybody to understand that it's a teamwork. It will be, hopefully Peter and I will be elected along with another young person who is running as independents. There is no room for party politics in council whatsoever, so we're running as independent candidates, aren't we, Peter?
That's correct, and it's the Iramu ward, which is the ward that covers the Manor Lakes, Wyndham Vale area, Central Werribee and Werribee South and parts of Point Cook. So there's 3 wards within the municipality, and Heather and I are standing, as Heather said, as independents, complete independents in the Iramu ward. Heather is a current councillor, an incumbent councillor. This is the first time that I've nominated to be a candidate for council elections since my retirement.
And it's really lovely to think that you've taken the time as our future leaders, young people coming here today to interview us, because we know that you're very interested in the council and the politics of council. So thank you.
Well, that's to see, we don't know much about it, and we thought it'd be a good learning experience to find out what's happening for when we are old enough to vote. So other than this interview, of course, how will you promote your campaign and how will you get your word across to the community?
What I'm doing, and Peter can explain what he's doing, I'm what you call an incumbent councillor, so I will be out working with the groups that I've worked with for the past 7 years, and I will be doing posters. I'm going to be doing brochures that will be put into everybody's letterbox, and just out and about talking to all the residents in all the different groups, sporting, elderly, youth, and all different aspects of the community.
With all the commotion going on about our safety in our streets, is there anything that you would do if you got elected to help
I could probably answer that, Emily. Thanks for the question. I retired in January last year after nearly 44 years in the member of the Victoria Police. So safety, one of the platforms that I'm standing on, I'm very interested in, and want to promote within the municipality is community safety, crime prevention, and that type of thing. I'll probably just point out that this month, October, is Community Safety Month, and I have a blog, which I'm running a blog at the moment trying to get elected to council. On that blog, there's some information about a residential information kit, which includes some tips and information about personal safety in the street, community awareness. It's something that I've practiced all my life and promoted. We have crime prevention officers that I can work with, even though I'm a civilian now, but we can promote safety in the community.
And I think, Peter, we're very interested in the double CCTV cameras.
Oh, very much so. The CCTV cameras, actually, a lot of people don't know, but a lot of issues that happened. The London bombings, I don't know if you recall that, when the G7 conference was on, that was really solved. The offenders were identified by CCTV camera coverage. I think it's really important.
And Peter, as a former policeman, you're very well aware of the safety issues for not only our youth but also for our elderly people. So it's vitally important, and I think it's been brought home since the murder of Jill Mayer, that we want to make sure our young people, Peter, can walk the streets and feel safe at night.
Exactly right. I mean, everybody's got the right to feel safe in the community, and in partnership with the police, councillors, council officers, police, the community, all aspects of the community, all members of the community can work together to make the place, the streets safer.
So Heather, how's the process work for the election? Is there a certain age you have to be and the dates? How will our parents know?
Yeah, the voting is between the ages of 18 to 70, but we encourage all 70-year-olds to vote because at 70 you're not too old to vote, and many people will be voting. Now it's a postal vote, so the packs will be sent out, the postal packs will be sent out to all residents on the roll starting the 9th of October till the 11th. So it will take 3 days for those postal votes to arrive at the residence. Then your mums and dads will open them, and this is what they will find in there. They will find the name of all of the candidates. So in Iramu there's 9, so we'll have 9 there, and then mums and dads and the young people will all be able to read what each candidate has said about why they should be elected. And Peter, that's a fairly good explanation.
It is
isn't
a good explanation. There's a 150. There's a limitation of 150 words that each candidate can, say what they're standing for and what they're about. But I know there's been recent information sort of circulated that people should research the candidates. There's other means, social media, that sort of thing.
So for all the young people looking and all the mothers, look for your postal vote, which will be coming out. Read very carefully what we've all got to say, and then what you've got to do then is make up your mind who you think would be a suitable candidate to look after the city of Wyndham, because we actually become custodians and we've got to look after the money, and the money is all put forward by the residents of the city. And Peter, that's very important for us to get out to the residents, that we're there as caretakers to make sure that we spend in the budgets the money very carefully.
Exactly right. I mean, we've got we're here to assist the residents and the people of voting age to achieve their aims and aspirations. What they want from a municipality. Councillors are, as Heather said, custodians or conduits to the community. We should be open and approachable as we are to listen to the concerns of the community and address those concerns, through council.
I heard you mention that in the brochure, in the 150 words you say, you briefly just, not describe it, explain what you're all about and why you're running. So could you give us a brief explanation of why you are running for the council?
I've been a councillor for 7 years, and I've worked in this city for 43 years. I've had lots of exposure. I enjoy working with the youth, the elderly, the young mothers, the young families, and I just felt that I wanted to be part of the council to make sure that we develop the city in a way as it's, as we said before, safety, but to make sure that we've got every service that the residents of this city would like to see. But it's very important to note that we need to work with all the residents. Come on board with us, work with us, and that will help make a much better... Oh,
exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's what we need to be out there listening to the residents and as I said before, their concerns, their aspirations, their needs, and that's what we're here for. I mean, I'm a great advocate for community engagement. It's worked in my previous job. I was a policeman for a lot of years, and I worked in this area, and locally at Laverton Police Station for all the years. And community engagement as a police person and as a councillor is extremely important. And
I think, Peter, I might just add that I've been a councillor for 7 years, and once you become a councillor, you really see the needs in the city. You see, and we have to work 10 years in advance, so we have to plan what we want to see, and because we're one of the fastest growing cities here in Australia, it's going to be very critical what we do as councillors over the next few years, the next 4 years, because when we're elected, we're there for 4 years. So it's very important that we all work really hard to understand, read all those agendas, read all the policies, to make sure that we are going to be here to shape this city in conjunction with absolutely everybody, because if we make mistakes, it's going to be really difficult for absolutely everybody that lives in this city. So that's one very important point.
That's true, Heather. And Daniel and Emily, it's really important to have a strategic plan, no matter what business you're in. And this, as Heather said, long term. You need long-term planning, for growth areas, especially areas like Wyndham, the municipality of Wyndham. you need a strategic plan. So long-term proper planning is extremely important, and that planning process involves the residents. It must.
Because you can have wonderful facilities, but without a wonderful community, you don't really have much. So we've got to balance the two out. We've got to see what our residents want, and we have to try and make sure that over this next 4-year period that we can implement many of those things that are being put before us. And I think, Peter, you will come in, you will really enjoy it because you've got a great knowledge of this community, and I know I would enjoy very much to have you come on board because you have much the same thoughts as what I have. And
yeah, that's right, Heather. We have the same beliefs and ideals. Yeah, we think very much alike. I've known Heather for a lot of years, and so we do think alike, and we want to achieve for the community.
So what plans do you have for the youth?
Council have been working on the youth policy for the last 4 years that we've been in term, so we understand the needs because guess what? We've got 30% of our youth under the age of 25. That's an enormous percentage that we have here in council, so we are well aware, and what we do is we do bring the youth in from some of the secondary colleges so that you can have a say on what you want to see here, because we know that you want more sporting facilities, we know you want a home where you might want to have your artwork, your music, so these are all the plans and the policies that we've got going. And Peter, you might have some good ideas because also you coming in from the safety aspect.
That's true, and I was previously stationed at Laverton Police Station, which is a neighbouring area to this, and part of a community renewal project there. We had our youth foundation, which had a street art program, which is still pretty vibrant and up and running. There's an art space there as well, where people display their artwork, and so it's important. They're things that young people want to do.
And Peter, perhaps what we could say is we'll put a question back to you. Emily and Daniel, what would you like to see us do for you if we both get re-elected to council?
Maybe some more recreational activities for the youth.
Around the community.
Do you have a lot of time where you've got really nothing to do?
Occasionally.
Yeah, there is a lot, because I play sport, football, yes. And that takes up maybe half of my year. But then there's another half where I've got nothing else to do.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And so what do you do when you've got nothing to do?
Mainly just
hang around
socialise with my friends, but then there's not much to do when I do. Like maybe there's the movies and the pools, but then after a while that gets really repetitive.
So would you like to see us put in more like swimming pools, more not like I think council's really good at putting in ovals for football and all those things, but there are sports that are not as popular as that, and we hear that this is an area that we really need to concentrate on. Is there something little specific thing that say, hey Heather and Peter, come on, this is what we want for our city?
Where yourself and your friends come up with some ideas. I mean, you get your heads together and say, well look, what do we really need? What can we do in our downtime when I'm not playing footy or whatever? And then come up and some initiatives, initiate those things, bring that to us, and then we can do what we can to implement those initiatives.
But what we want to do, Peter, is that we want to get to our youth because you're going to be very important. You're going to be our leaders in the future.
You're the future.
Yeah. So you need to come on board and you need to tell us now. I do a lot of Deb balls and with Galvin Park where you go, and we know that you really enjoy them. So is there something in that field like disco dancing, ballroom dancing? Is there anything in that field that perhaps we're lacking here in this city? Young Idol competitions?
Could have something like just special interests with like singing and like not like an X Factor, but just as you said
just
before.
Like a little.
Would you like a
fun
home?
competition
Would you like a home that we could go? I did a conference and it was on Chicago. They showed us what they did and they got hold of a really old building and it became the home for the youth. Would you like something like that?
That would be a really good idea. Like
yeah.
a place where there's not just one thing. It could be like if you're interested in media or singing and stuff, there'd be that, so or sports or something, there'd be another place.
Yeah.
That's a good
and that's really good. you know, you're coming up with some initiatives already, some ideas already. Then you talk to your peers, your friends, and then say, look, and I think a forum, whether it be a formal or informal forum, probably informal forum, you know, a get together with yourself as representing, you know, your the other people in the community, the other young people in the community, but you know, get some ideas happening, and we discuss it, you know, and you implement things together, you know. It's called partnership approach.
Yeah,
you know,
and that's important, and that's why Pauline and I love working with you all, because, you know, we think we know all the tricks, but once we start working with you, you teach us a few new tricks, and I think that's wonderful, because it doesn't matter what the age gap would be. It's important that we understand where you're all coming from.
Yeah.
I've got a question that I'm not too sure about. Public transportation, is that in the council's area of?
Look, that is a government issue, but council does play a very important part. And Peter might like to say something about that, having been in the police force, you know, but it is something that council is very aware of, very concerned about, because we need to be able to move people from A to B in this city, don't we, Peter?
We do, and as I said, in my previous employment, I was involved in a community renewal project, and part of that community renewal project was we had a transport and traffic committee, and we looked at road improvements, but we also looked, and then we identified a need from feedback we got from the community. We identified a need for a bus service from the Laverton railway station to the industrial area at Laverton North.
And Peter, I think that's a really big issue now, because with our industrial area going ahead with looking at lots of employment, we can't get our youth out there. If you wish to leave school and go into employment, we can't get you down to that employment precinct. So that's one issue that we really do need to look at. And Daniel, that was and Emily, that was a good question to ask, because we're told so often that if you have to catch a bus, and then if it's running late, you miss the train, and then you have to stand on the station for 20 minutes. So that's a really, really good question to ask us, because we then, as a council, advocate to the state government and say, look, because we've grown so quickly in such a short time, we need better transport services for the city.
More frequent bus services. Yeah. They need to be coordinated between, say, the trains and the buses, and that includes more bus stops. You know, so there's you don't have to walk as far. Things like that. We, the council, as Heather said, can advocate for those sort of things with people like the Department of Transport, State Government Department of Transport, and Vic Roads. And we, as I said before, we were successful in Laverton.
So what our policy is, if I can interrupt Peter, is we would like to see bus stops within 400 metres of people's houses, so that, you know, you can quickly go along. But I think there was another question you asked us before, Daniel, is you're very concerned about the bus shelters.
Yes, within the bus shelter there are glass things, and they're constantly getting smashed. But what I struggle to understand is, why would the council keep paying for glass if it's going to keep getting smashed? Why wouldn't you pay for something less fragile, like plastic or something?
And that's a really, really good question. That's a question that many people put to us a lot of the time. Because it doesn't matter which age group, you're all asking us the same question, why? Now, council do not have to supply the bus shelters, it's done by the Department of Transport. But what we're concerned about is, with this glass, it's shattered, it lies in the shelter, so we have to make sure that we can then clean it up. So what we're going to try and come up with now is to get the Department of Transport to put in mesh, silver mesh, so that whoever it is, and we don't know who it is, that is breaking. I'm not going to accuse the youth, it could be older people, but that's what we're trying to come up with now, so that there's not this waste of money by the ratepayers and the taxpayers putting in all this glass all the time.
As youth, it's sad to see that all our shelters have been damaged, so when it's cold weather, we've got nothing we just have to stand outside in the cold. We don't have anything to sit in because of youth just vandalises it.
But we're not just sure. It might not just be youth.
It might not be youth, it could be. We're not accusing anyone.
But
it's a very small percentage of the community that don't want to comply with the rules, and want to go out and do this wanton damage.
Maybe it's just a factor of people are getting bored, so maybe that's where the recreational
Well, it's true enough too,
in.
that's right. You know, but I mean, it just disadvantages everybody. You know.
And that's what you're saying, is if we're not providing enough services for the youth, that then says, well, look, we'll just go out. If you won't take any notice of us, we will go out and we'll do something so that you start to take notice of us. And this is where we must look for lots more entertainment and services for our youth.
There's certainly reasons behind everything. I mean, everything's done for a purpose. And it's pretty hard to comprehend the purpose of breaking that glass in those bus shelters.
But Peter, I think it's really good that Daniel and Emily are coming up with some of these ideas for us. And, you know, if there's anything else you'd like to ask us about, you know, the roads and the services and what we're doing for your mums and dads, for the young children, the kindergartens, did you go to kindergarten?
Yeah.
Yes, I did. I can't remember where though.
I actually went to the area kindergarten.
That's a good kindergarten. Yeah.
It's good that you brought it up. With the roads, what's the go there? What's the go with the transporting on roads, like
Look,
footpaths and
as
etc.?
every resident in this city would be saying to us, what are you going to do about the congested roads? And look, as councillors and with Peter coming on, we are really concerned about that. Now, if I can just explain, Balan Road, for instance, is a government road. Duncan's Road, Sayers Road, and a lot of these roads are to be serviced by the state government, but council do have a lot of the other roads. We've spent millions of dollars in this last year on bringing services to the residents, but we're not keeping up. I think, and I think Peter, you would agree, that we need to slow the growth a little bit so that we can get the money from state and federal government to help us improve the road system.
That's great.
I mean, people that live out at Wyndham Vale, which is in our ward, we've got the river and we've got the railway line, and you get there and you come to a grinding halt, you can't move.
Yeah,
and that's really, really upsetting for parents that are spending $35 or 20 minutes sitting in their car and they can't get across the river.
Right. But those natural barriers, you know, the railway and the river. And as Heather said, I went to a recent council meeting, attended a recent council meeting as an observer. And council have put forward a motion that growth be slowed in the area. I think it's about an 8% growth rate or something.
Well, at the moment, we really wanted to drop down to around about 5.5%.
Yep.
Now, Manor Lakes tell me, I was out to see Manor Lakes recently, and they said the growth in the blocks has slowed dramatically.
Yep.
So hopefully that will give us time to catch up. I mean, we have a rating system here, and during the 12 months we have to look at how much we're going to increase the rates by, because we know many people here can't afford to be paying a whole lot more in rates. So this year we said that the rates were not to rise more than 5.5%. Some we knew would, and some we knew would go down. And this has been a really, really contentious issue for us, because in some of the growth areas where the properties have come into the urban growth boundary, and this is probably a little bit difficult for you to understand, some of those properties have gone up 2 to 3 to 4 to 500%, which has caused a lot of problems for many of those people. But in general, what we tried to do is to make sure that the rates, on average, that's going an average across all of the properties, was to rise by 5.5%. And we're hoping that we can keep that rise similar every year. And of course, that's what we've got to look at, the services and how we're going to do it.
And the services and the infrastructure, which is the roads and those sort of things, there's got to be priorities. I think the reduction in the growth of the area, and if it's a natural reduction at the moment, well, that's a good thing, I think, because as Heather said, there'll be catch-up in relation. But unfortunately, you know, things have got to be prioritised, and as Heather said, a lot of the major roads that service, you know, people in and out of this city are government responsibility roads, and council need to lobby to get that funding, either from the state or federal government, or both. Recently, I mean, the federal government, I think the state government, the federal government to a larger extent have funded the regional rail link, which will be a bonus for this municipality.
Peter, and I was, if I can say, I was really lucky. I was the mayor in 2010, and I was very fortunate to be able to work with the Labor government in those days, and we worked really, really hard because the state government wanted to put the overpass over Manor Lakes Boulevard, which would have cut Manor Lakes in half. And so as the mayor, I had the privilege of working with the council officers and also the state government ministers, and we were able to get the funding to make sure that we had the underpass which will go under that. And I remember we had the Prime Minister out there, and I rode in the car with her because I wanted to point out to her the difficulties. And of course the federal government is probably one of the biggest projects that they've assisted us with, because it's $4.3 billion, which is a lot of money.
In your brief summary just now, you mentioned something that we've seemed to overlook in this interview, and that's money. If you two are elected, what will you do to find more efficient ways of spending money and try and save more money for the community?
Daniel, you know what? That's a very, very sensible question. I'm really proud of you to come up and ask a question like that, because I think there are many services and sometimes we don't spend the money wisely. And I'll let Peter speak in a moment, but because I've been a councillor, I'd like to go back through their budgets to every department that we have in council and look at how we can trim back the money to put it into something more that the people would say, hey, listen, we would prefer you spend our money on sporting ovals, roads, kindergartens. So I think that's
Something
a really good question, Peter. And so that we can then, but we need to say, get committees. I'd like to see more committees done so that you can come in and say, hey Heather, Peter, I don't think you're spending our money wisely. I think you could do better this and this, and I think this has got to be a community project.
Of course, very much so, as I mentioned before about, a forum, with a youth forum, similar to this.
But Peter, I have to say I'm really proud of these two young people to come up and ask us these questions like that, because it looks as though that you're really interested in what's going to happen here.
In the future, hopefully the future's in this municipality. As Heather said before, you're the leaders of the future. You're the, so it's really important. But I think it's a matter of prioritising, as Heather said. It's looking across the expenditure, the budgets within certain departments within council, and then coming up with priorities. And those priorities will be driven by the community. Feedback to us.
And I think something else that's been brought up to us in this last few weeks is a fair rating system. Some people feel that, and I won't go into the differentials because that's a bit too much to expect you to know, but this is what happens, say commercial areas have a different rate in the dollar, the industrial have, and of course they can afford to pay more.
The farm areas,
and we've got to look at how we're going to do it with these rates that have been brought into the urban growth boundaries, and also for the residents and people that own vacant blocks of land here rated fairly highly. So I think that would be one of my priorities, and I'm sure, Peter.
It is, and council are moving that way at the moment. After there was a bit of there was some angst in the community about the rate increase, and certainly in the urban growth zone areas, and there's a review at the moment. So there's certainly a review. So council are revisiting that, and that's obviously got to be driven by councillors and council officers, but I think it's extremely, what you said is very true. We need to be fair and equitable to the community.
And it's great to think our young people are thinking like that,
That's
Peter.
right.
It's our community, we have to live in it. So
Exactly
we
right.
have
But
say.
because and I do know both of you quite well, but it's great to think that you are thinking of the future of this city and where you'd like to see us take you as a team, not just 11 councillors. You are part of this city, so we want you to be part of our team and if we get re-elected, we would come back to you and hopefully listen to what you all have to say to us.
We will. Well, we will.
We will.
We will listen to you.
That's our promise if we get re-elected.
I'm sure me and Daniel will have a lot of stuff if you get elected to offer ideas for our community.
Well, I think probably just we've even sort of thought of those things already. When I think things like better coordination of the public transport system, things like that. Us, the council, lobbying for more bus stops. The frequency of bus stops.
Roads.
Roads. Better bus service.
Services for the youth.
So we've obviously outlined what you're going to do for the youth and the young adults. What about the elderly? We've seemed to overlook the elderly. What are you going to do for the elderly people?
I'm not. I've been a resident here for a lot of years, and my parents lived in this municipality for a lot of years.
And your mum's still living here?
My mum is still. My mother's 88. Still lives there. The services provided. My mother's now a war widow. What's called a war widow. So that's the federal government, Veterans Affairs. But the services provided by the local council here, I can say, are excellent. They really are. They really are. The way that they look after my mother. My mother lives. She lives in a unit, but she's visited by council. She's not infirm or anything, but it's the services provided by council are really good.
But that doesn't mean to say that we're not going to continue to
Yes.
look to make sure that there's even better services.
right.
But having been there for the 9 years, I know the services. You know, they can apply for Meals on Wheels. They can apply to have somebody to mow their lawns and that type of thing. But of course, when you ask the question about the money, we need to make sure that, because some people say they ring up and they can't get somebody to come and do their lawns. So these are some of the areas, you know, that we have to look at, because again, although we've got a very young age population, we are now going into the phase where we've got a lot more elderly people that are coming to live close to their family that are here. So, you know, that's another thing that we really do have to look at.
Yeah. I mean, we're all in it together. As I think Emily, you said before, it's about all of us in the community, you know, and that's really important, you know.
I think it's been
know?
wonderful that, you know, you've wanted to do this interview with us, so that, you know, we're the older part section, and, you know, for you to choose us to come and interview us, I just think that's wonderful that you're thinking about a candidate coming in, a councillor that's been there, and to come and sit and talk with us to tell us that what you think we should be doing for this community. I think that's a really great thing to do, and I thank you.
I appreciate that too, no problem. It's been really nice to meet you.
I'm sure if I was 18, I'd vote for Heather and Peter. But yeah, I'm not.
Is there anything?
But,
Well, what we do, if you did, and if Heather is re-elected and if I'm elected to council, we'll do everything we can to represent this community fairly and equitably. You know, that's what it's all about. That's what we're here for.
And you know what, I just love working with the younger people because it keeps me younger. You keep putting lots of lovely ideas into my head of, say, hey Heather, no, that's not quite right. Listen to what we're saying, and I try to listen to what the young people tell us so that we just don't neglect them. And I think, you know,
right.
Peter, you'll be doing the same thing. And, you know, once my son said to me, Heather, Mum, you're using all the older things, please go and work with the youth because they'll keep you younger. So I thank my sons for telling me to come out here and work with the youth, because I just love you all so much. And I just hope, even if I don't get re-elected, I'll be there to work with you all.
Well, I'm very sorry, we're running out of time. We're going to have to wrap this up. Is there anything you'd like to say?
I'd just like to thank you for sharing your ideas with us and for us giving us your time to come talk to you.
Yes, we appreciate it very much, and I'm sure the community will appreciate it.
No problems at all.
Yes, I'm looking forward to the future now.
Well, very much so. That's what it's all about, the future.
And I think that is great to see that, you know, we've all come together today to discuss our future here in the city of Wyndham, and I think we can't go wrong. I think we've got a great future here in this city with young people like you.
Yes, so it was very nice to meet you, Peter.
Thanks,
it was
Daniel.
nice to see you again,
Emily.
Heather.
Thank you, Daniel.
So,
And thank you, Emily.
in brief, get out there and vote for your chosen candidate. Obviously, Heather and Peter here are very well, we'll say, qualified, and they have very good visions.
Lots of ideas.
Lots of great ideas, and they do listen to the youth and anyone who has ideas. So yes, we thank them very much, and we look forward to the future.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.